YouTube now. Oh my goodness gracious. We are live on YouTube. Alrighty. All right, everyone. Welcome to YouTube. My name is Johnny Risotto, and I'm here with BreakTime and George Batista, who actually played in my band for many, 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 many years, different bands. And yeah, from day one, we learned how to play in a band by right. We just learned how to play.
We just started, yeah.
Yeah, we started like literally like I think I do this and you do that and go like this. And somehow we figured it out. Um,
Exactly.
yeah, cool. So thank you all for coming in. There is one other person that I invited. I don't know if he's gonna come in, but if he does come in, we'll welcome him. And I don't want to do a lot of backtracking when somebody comes in late. So if I usually will give them like little snippets of where we are, but I don't want to go back too far. So anybody is late, um, cool. So okay, so we're gonna talk about the songwriting process. I thought it'd be interesting to kind of like just kind of break down during this situation that we're currently all in right now. We're locked away. I think it's kind of important that a lot of artists are at home right now creating, and there's I spoke to a friend of mine yesterday. He's they're all writing. They're film writers. I have other friends that are getting ready for like they're doing headshots in their own house. They're getting their headshots ready. Um, Songwriting, bands coming together. There's just a lot of activity going on with the artists that are just getting ready to be launched when this whole situation is behind us. So I'm breaking this down into different episodes where one week we talk about the band situation, another week we talked about I don't remember, but to this week we're going to talk about the songwriting process. And so I mean what I'll do is I'll start, George and I will start since we have some history together, and then I'll break it out to you guys. And you guys, while we're chatting, if you guys have a question or something on anything, please just let us know. Raise your hand. Raise your hand. Um, um, and we'll try to see if we can answer that. So, um, let me see. So, George, George and I are cousins, right? We're related, so we're blood cousins, and so we kind of grew up together. I'm a few years older than he is, obviously, if you can tell. But so I was sort of like the I don't know if I was an influence, but I was kind of always telling you, the drums, and I think I got you to get your mother to buy you drums or something. And
Yeah.
was it the sonar drums? I think they were.
Well, actually, no. It was we just decided. I mean, you were already playing guitar, so
Right,
we just
right,
decided, hey, why don't we just start a band? And I said,
right.
okay, and and I conned my
You might
mother
need
into
a
buying
you
me
might
a.
need a drum. Yeah.
I mean, I conned her into buying me a. I don't know. It had to be a $300 drum set, Percussion Plus,
Percussion
and
Plus, that's what it was.
was the yeah, very cheaply made drum set. But
Yeah,
that's how we learned. And that's how we
yeah, yeah,
started.
yeah. And I remember you know, those days that we, over there on Chatterton, um, you know, we would go there. I would go there, and we really had no idea what songwriting was, but we always and George, I think you could actually attest for this, where we never really focused that much on learning a lot of material from other bands. Isn't that true? Like we kind of
Correct.
we're playing maybe little stuff here and there. Like I think we tried to play a Stairway to Heaven or something because I learned how to
Right.
play it and stuff. Simple songs like that. And but we kind of like fell right into the idea that just what you do is you write songs. I don't know why that happened, to be honest. Like I don't have any clue why we decided that we were gonna write Aftershock and the
And
worst
she's
songs
gone.
ever. And she's gone. Yeah, we wrote some real clunkers, but that was how we were. We knew right away that that was kind of like
Right.
the thing. So what do you remember us having a conversation about that?
Well, I don't I know that you came in with already songs down. You came in with lyrics. You came in with a little bit of structure, And I had no idea how to write a song or how to put a song together. But we just kind of started messing around with it. And somehow we were able to write these very simple tunes.
Yeah.
But, I was approaching it more from the arranger side, musician arranger side, where you were very good with lyrics. So we just kind of put it together, and it was trial and error, basically. That's how we started.
Yeah, it's just interesting because first of all, I don't even remember coming with anything, but I guess probably when I was home doing, I came with something. But I do
Right,
remember that we were, this was the end of the hair bands,
right,
right? This was the end of the hair bands and the beginning of Nirvana, right? This is kind of like where
right,
we
exactly.
were right in that in that area. And we heard Pearl Jam for the first time, and I think what actually happened with George and why he became such a this is my own take on it, George. Why he became such a good drummer playing Dave Weckl stuff was that I thought to myself, oh no, I was actually at my mom's house. I think this is an interesting story. I was at my mom's house, and my mom had been renting a room to some dude, and this so the dude left. He left after whatever, and he left a box of CDs, like all these CDs and stuff. And my mom, I was coming over to visit my mom, and she was like, because there's a box of CDs. I don't know, you want these? And I looked at them, and I was like, I don't really know. I was too naive musically to know that much about these bands that I'm holding in my hands. One of them was Rush, Moving Pictures. The other one was The Who. I can't remember the album. I think it was I
I think
can't
it was
remember what
Who's
album.
There, was it, or something
Yeah,
like
I think
that?
it was something
Yeah,
like that. Yeah. And then I had another one. I can't remember what it was, but I had these CDs. I think they were right because they
yeah,
weren't cassettes or anything. They were CDs. And I took the CD home and I put on Rush. And I was like, "What the hell is this?" I was like, "I'd never heard of Rush." And this is like going. And Rush has already been around for 20 years at this point, and I had
yeah.
no idea who the hell they were. But the drums just blew me away. So I go to George and I was like, "George, do you know these guys?" And he's like, "No." I was like, "Play this thing," and I created a monster because
It was over. It was
it
over.
was over. He went out and bought literally every single Rush thing, which was good because you had a great a big catalog to buy.
Right, right.
We went to almost every show whenever they were in town. George went to like a ton of shows, way more
Yeah,
than I did. And we just we we figured out that there was this other way of approaching songs where it wasn't, you know, chorus, verse, chorus, bridge, verse,
right.
chorus, verse, that kind of deal. And that became kind of like a really interesting thing, a way for us to go. Unfortunately, I think with the band, when you start getting into a band situation, you have to kind of structure things in ways that audiences are going to understand. Like Rush
Exactly.
is, they're a Hall of Fame band, they're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but they weren't like completely radio friendly all the time because their song structures were so complex and just
Right.
all over the place, and people just couldn't gravitate to that as much. But I think that the songs had these melodies that I know that George and I totally appreciated. And then when Nirvana and Pearl Jam and that whole Seattle thing happened, we we kind of wanted to kind of try to incorporate all that stuff. And then I was a big Santana fan, so there's a lot of Santana sounds and Latin sounds in our music as well. So I think that kind of what made the first thing maybe that we ever did, Hussin Sound. That was one of our first. Was that I guess that was our first band,
It
and
was, right.
yeah, and that kind of like went to the next thing. But we found songwriting to be just natural, like, right? It just seemed like
Yes.
I wouldn't think of any other way of having being in a band. Again, I don't know
Right.
where that came from. You know what I mean? Because
Right.
I remember being in a room with guitar players and being a little embarrassed that they can play these like real complex, famous songs, and
Right.
I'm just like sitting there like, well, I could write a song. I don't. I don't know how to play that lead from Van Halen, you know what I mean? But there
Right.
are guys out there going, you know, and I was just like, yeah, and I was like, I can't do that. Yeah. so so that was a really interesting you know, situation. Okay, I feel like I'm talking way too much. So let's move it on to the other guys. Um so let's start with Sean, I'm gonna end with you. And I'm just gonna go around start with Andres, is that okay?
Sounds
Yep.
good to me.
So do you write? Are you currently writing songs, or is it something that you're putting
Well,
your
I just
attention? I mean, you're a guitar player, and
yeah, I just started writing actually because now I'm in the band. But
Mhm.
I spent the majority of my music time, like my music career, for to say,
Mhm.
learning theory and improvisation because I was in like the
Ah,
jazz band at school. So
oh, okay.
I spent a lot of time learning like jazz tunes mostly, and I played classical as well. But as
Oh.
far as like just learning straight up rock tunes, popular songs, I never got into that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd learned some here and there. Like I'm a really big Jim Croce fan. I
Oh,
have
wow.
I have a his
Nice.
rose. I have a rose tattoo, the same spot that he had his rose tattoo.
Oh, so you're really
Yeah, like
okay.
if I ever want to emulate someone's songwriting, it'd be like Jim Croce.
Yeah,
Because like his
Jim was
lyricism
like,
was just
yeah, it was such a he was such a storyteller. He really took it
yeah,
to. You went on a journey with him, and it was like amazing.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but yeah, I'm stuck. I'm. It's kind of I don't want to say writer's block, but it's that part where lyric wise, nothing I write. It just seems like this is not exactly what I'm trying to convey, but I can't think of
Mm-hmm.
the right words. Almost
Mm.
that sounded lyrical. I should write that.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I think most of the times,
Ambiguity.
yeah, when you get an idea for a song, it's how to convey the lyrics or how to convey that into words. It's usually where it gets a little tricky. What I found is that I try to condense my thoughts into smaller phrases. Like I notice a lot of
Hmm.
songwriters want to write songs like, you know, I met her and I really loved her. She was fantastic. You know, and instead of just writing that, you can just write, you know, I met a really great girl. You know what I mean? Just and that kind of tells that that point, and then with the next point you want to make, shrink down that idea as much as you possibly can, and then throw
Uh
in a
huh.
little bit of not necessarily, you don't have to rhyme, you know, because everybody's like, oh, you got to rhyme
Yeah.
words. I mean, it does kind of flow well when it does, when you do have that, but you don't have to really think with it so much. But tie it together verse
Yeah.
wise,
Like
you
one
know.
cohesive idea.
Yeah, yeah. I heard Paul Simon once say, because I love Paul Simon's
Oh yeah.
songwriting
Another
also.
amazing one.
Yeah, just incredible. But I heard him say that, you know, the first, and I wrote a song based on this. And George, this was when we did some solo stuff where I was just by myself. Where he said the first two lines of the song should be completely a lie. He said it should just completely have a completely over the top lie that makes no sense. That's just he likes to then go and take it from there. And I was listening to
Hmm.
some of his songs and I was like, oh, okay, I could see he kind of like just goes into like this all other place and you think he's gonna go here, but he kind of takes you there. And I thought that was an interesting thing. Um, so do you think that what do you think can help you with your songwriting?
Well, I've been actually like doing research for finally like going
Good.
on to the internet how to
Yeah,
write a good song, and
man.
I've been getting
George, man,
some
if
good.
we had that.
Oh, I wish we had the internet back then.
Oh God.
Yeah, but it's like a
Yeah.
double-edged sword because at the same time,
Right.
when you try to follow these rules and these guidelines, and you start losing creativity. Because
Right.
then, like, if I had that, like, if they had that back in like the '70s, you wouldn't have
Yeah.
Rush wouldn't be making songs like they make
No,
because
you're right.
they'd be going,
Sounds
oh,
too
you need a verse
formulaic.
chorus, yeah,
Yeah.
Right, right.
Yeah. We'd have a lot of Coldplay bands.
yeah,
Um,
Nickelback.
Nickelback. Poor Nickelback. Every Every episode we gotta give him a hard time.
Nickelback, you suck.
Give us photograph.
All right, I'm gonna be the Nickelback defender here.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go with Joey. Joey. So, so as far as songwriting, just to get back to Andres real quick, yeah, you're right about the internet. It can be it is a double-edged sword, and you want to be careful that when you go on there that you don't take it as face value. You take it as exactly that, research. You take pieces from there, things that make sense to you, things that actually resonate with you.
Yeah.
You take that and you go with that. You don't necessarily have to go and listen to these knuckleheads that are out there.
Yeah, use it more as like a tool rather than the guideline.
Exactly.
It's
Like music
basically
theory
like
in
culture.
general.
Right. Yeah,
Basically,
exactly.
Assimilating stuff that you like into one thing.
Right.
Mhm.
Exactly. So Joey, do you write? I know I've seen your drumming, which is incredible. Do you write?
No, I don't write any songs, but
Okay.
occasionally, once in a while, I do come up with my own compositions. Like I would
Okay.
just playing around with different melodies around the kit,
Okay.
and then I would just kind of build off from there. Like go add different patterns from different drummers that have inspired me,
Mhm.
and then I would just kind of string it together like telling a story. Um, I don't really try to focus on chops. I try to focus more on the simplicity of the melody. So actually today I just put up my new composition on my channel. Um, it just has like a really simple idea. So that's what I usually go for. I usually go for simple ideas and then I
Mhm.
just build off from there and then I make it like grander as it goes
Yeah.
along.
Now, I find it that drummers are really also good at arranging because George is always like did most of the arranging for everything. Like he would actually just, I don't know, we would come in with like the basics, of a song. We'd have verses, choruses, and little bridges here and there, and then he would arrange kind of how things should go and then add things to it and whatever. Is that something also that you feel you like to do with break time to help them out in that part?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind. I also in the past I've also arranged some jazz tunes that we had to do for our jazz combos at NJCU.
Mhm.
They made it mandatory for us to arrange a song that we picked. So, like for example, I think last year we did Wayne Shorter, and we each had to arrange a specific Wayne Shorter tune. So I have like some
Nice.
experience in that, but yeah, I wouldn't mind.
Cool. And I think also when you guys get in a room, it kind of developed. Like we weren't planning on George doing that. It just kind of developed into
It just,
him
yeah,
being
exactly.
good at that. For whatever Kool-Aid he drank, just gave him that ability. And he also had the best memory of like I bet you right now if we all got in a room, I couldn't play half of the songs, but George would know all the chords. He would know because he also plays guitar. He would know the chords. He would also know the melody, the lyrics. Like you would know the lyrics. Like this actually happened more than one time, which I'm sad to say. Holland, our lead singer, would turn around in the middle of a song while playing and ask George, "What's next? Next line?" And
Very
George
true. Very true.
and George would have to yell the line and be like, whatever the line was and stuff. Oh man.
But just if I could chime in on one thing when he was saying about drummers coming up with compositions and things like that. One of the things that actually helped me just in helping to compose a song or stuff like that was actually playing the guitar. And you taught me my first chords on guitar, but guitar actually helped me really look at music from a different perspective. And so, and I have to compliment you on that because, like I said, you taught me, I think, my first 3 or 4 chords. And, but actually with the arrangements and stuff like that, guitar helped me a lot with that. So, that's one of the good things about it.
That's true because it does make you understand what the musician, the guitar players are kind of thinking with and stuff. So that kind of makes sense.
Exactly.
That's interesting. Okay, Joey, you got to go play the. We got to get Joey a
I'm gonna have to teach you the guitar now, I guess.
guitar. You
Free of
got
charge.
three. You have three
Tommy,
guitars.
Andres,
The
you know
Gypsy
what to do.
Kings.
Yeah.
All you gotta know, Joey,
Yeah.
the main chorus.
E, A, and B7.
Hey,
All
yeah.
I know is 4/4. So
That's it. All right, Tommy, we're gonna harass you now about the songwriting. What are you currently writing right now, or is this something that you're holding off, or do you work with Sean?
Most of the time, like before this whole craziness unfolded, I actually met with Sean at least once every Friday, and we would just sit there and come up with stuff. Even some of his songs that he has already, we kind of just try to make it better, and to the best of our ability. And Sean would say, "Hey, play this," and I would try to play that, whatever he wanted me to play.
Mhm.
And so far, it's worked. So,
Yeah.
but as far as me personally, I I haven't been writing much like lately, but I do have like ideas flowing in my head, and I actually do have a few song ideas written down. I just didn't get to like finish them like completely yet. But hopefully with a little help from Sean, maybe we can make some of those songs happen.
With a little help from his friends.
Oh.
I have to throw in a Beatle reference. George, Sean is like the ultimate Beatle trivia fan, obsessive.
That's right. I think I remember from the last conversation we had.
Yeah, big Beatles fan. So, Tommy, do you what kind of songs? Because I know you're like a rock guitar player. Like
Yeah, I'm more of
you
like
play loud, you play riffs, you play,
turn it up.
turn it up. So is that when you're writing with Sean, do you go there, or are you trying to develop something that's a little softer
Well,
for
we're trying to like develop some like softer,
sound?
not as overdriven kind of
Yeah.
songs, kind of, I guess, kind of sort of like the Beatles, but in our own way, of course, but kind of similar to like like how the Beatles would kind of sound in a way,
Mm-hmm.
and other artists from that same time frame that they were around. But as we wrote, for example, we wrote one song that I actually started to put a 12-string guitar on it, which is the
Oh, cool.
Gretsch 12-string. I think you might have seen before, uh,
Yeah.
in photos and stuff like that. And so we started writing stuff like with 12-string. We started doing even like slower kind of songs, like calmer songs, like not just like pow in your face kind of songs,
Yeah.
but also kind of how would you say, like maybe
Ballads.
ballads basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Oh yeah, ballads.
yeah, basically. But
That's cool. The um, so we're gonna switch over to Sean, and so as the I guess you've written already songs, right? You already have some songs. Okay,
My song
yes.
he's got his books.
There's about 50 or so songs strung between these two books.
Nice. So yeah, I mean that's really where you start. You start putting those thoughts together, and then start putting a melody to a thought, and then that becomes the start of something. Do you have anything that you feel ready to start working with the band, or have you already worked with the full band on some of these tracks?
Most of the songs that I've written, Tommy's been the first one to see them, and I kind of use that duo process, like Lennon McCartney. We don't
Mhm.
necessarily take the Elton John Bernie Taupin route of the two rooms,
Right.
but it's generally I bring an idea to Tommy, and I usually have the chord structure down. I already have the melody, most of the words, and I tell Tommy, I have an idea of a riff, and then I play like the shell of it on the piano, and then I ask Tommy, like, where do you see it going from here? and then I send Tommy off to the races when it comes to that. And when it comes to the solos, I leave a specific solo section for him to write it out and have it be part of the identity of whatever song it is. And then Tommy comes back to me and he's like, does this sound right? Does this sound good? And I'm usually a pain in his side sometimes saying that, oh, this solo needs to be a little better. And he's like, hey, cut me some slack. I just learned the song like 5 minutes ago, man. But that's usually the process. I throw stuff back and forth with Tommy, and then we come up with something to show the rest of the guys.
Yeah.
And I am looking forward to getting with Andres to see if I can guide him along and see what naturally happens with including him in the process.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Joey as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think Andres, because he has that classical and trained background, I think it'll be good melody wise, and I think with you can take the same four chords, right, and make a billion songs out of them. It really all matters on melody, because even the lyrics are kind of like, good lord, but it's really just the melody that really structures it. And I had a keyboard, and what I used to do is a song called what was that ballad that we had on the one of the ballads we had? I don't remember what it was called. It was one of the more popular ones that we used to play a lot. I don't remember. Anyway, it was a ballad.
I don't remember.
And Call Me. Call Me? Do we have some called?
Oh, okay.
Is that
Call
a
me,
song?
yeah. Call me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Call Me. So but I took a keyboard and I basically had the chords, and what I did was I just played a melody line on the keyboard, because something that I wouldn't necessarily in my head sing, because that's another thing, we're playing the guitar, right, and we're trying to sing, and we're gonna say like, la 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 la, and I'm like, but then if you're just playing and then you don't have this and the voice going at the same time, you're only thinking of melody, and the guitar is playing, right, you can actually mess around with different melodies, and that actually makes you start thinking like, oh, all these, I mean, because there are only a few notes that you can put in, you know what I mean, there's not that many notes, right, it's only 7, right, and the flats and stuff, right, so I mean it's not like a lot of too much in there. So what was that?
Depends on the mode that
Right,
that you're
depends
in.
on the mode, yeah. Let's just stick to the
Modal songs.
Yeah.
Modal interchange.
Right. So I mean, when you put those notes on paper, there's only so much you can do with them, so in order to really get creative, you have to kind of start stringing them in different ways, and that's I remember how I did a lot of songs, because I remember I would just get stuck. So what I would do, I'll record, a little recorder thing, and I would record the chords and just have it playing over and over again, while in my head I was just trying to come up with something, and then I would just write it. And then sometimes it all came at once, it just like it felt good. So there's different ways. You have to kind of leave yourself open for whatever comes, and not say I'm only gonna write songs this one way. Like the whole Elton John and Bernie. Like I don't even know how the hell they did that, but this dude would write the songs, have them FedExed, and then the next, platinum records.
Yeah,
So
that's an interesting thing about the creative process. Like it's so like ambiguous, like the way that like sometimes full songs come to people like in dreams, or like from seeing something. Sometimes it's just really observant people just writing about life. Sometimes you're having a conversation with somebody and then they say something that sounds lyrical, and then they're like, oh, that can be a title, or at least I can use that in a song. It's really about like being receptive to like whatever's going on, and like some people say looking for signs, like there are signs out there like for songwriters, and it takes a lot of training to be like observant for.
Right, you have to always be on, because at any time something can hit, so you don't. I was just gonna say that before this thing happened, we had a meeting at the real estate office where I'm an agent there, and I was doing a meet. I do meet these boring meetings and stuff. So I was doing this boring meeting on social media stuff. And one guy in the back, the phone the phone rang, and so I was like, all right, get the phone. So his phone rang, and then he looks at it and he says, it's this girl named Rachel. So he's like, I can't talk to Rachel. And I thought, what a great title for a song.
Yeah.
I wrote it down. I said, I actually started working on it. I'm halfway through a song called, I Can't Talk to Rachel. But I just thought it just the way he said it. It wasn't even the words. It was the way he said it. It was melodic. He's like, I can't
Right.
talk to her. And I just thought, oh, that sounds very melodic. So it
Yeah,
kind of
like-
you have to kind of always be on to like what happens. What happens around you and stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
like, and if you get a melody in your head, like if you're on the bus or something, you're like,
oh,
oh, I
you
gotta
gotta
remember
go.
this before I get home, man. I gotta
Yeah.
remember this.
Yeah, the thing is now it's easy because you hum it to your phone. I mean, I have stuff in my phone. I'm walking down the street. I'm like, la, 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 la. I mean, people think I'm like mentally deranged. Not just because of that. It's probably because of my pink hat. But I think that it's much easier now to make sure you don't forget those things. Because how many times have you been like, oh man, I don't want to forget this, and then you come up with something amazing and you're like, I'll remember it because it's so amazing. There's no way in hell that I'm gonna forget this. And then you put the guitar down, you go to sleep, and the next day you pick it up, and you're like, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
And that's the
Every
worst feeling
time.
in the world.
Every
Yeah.
time.
That was
So with our phones now, it's so much easier.
that was like the Lennon McCartney school of things. Like they said, oh, we'd come up with something on the road, and then if we forgot it, we thought it was nothing good. So why would we remember it?
Well, there you go. I mean, but of course, when you have that track record,
Yeah.
Yeah.
then I think you're okay. Didn't yesterday come to Paul McCartney like in a dream?
Yeah, it was in a
Yeah.
dream. He didn't have the lyrics though. He originally called
Yeah,
it,
he
I think
just
it was
had the
scrambled
melody. He was
eggs.
like doo 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 doo.
And then he was living in the Asher's house in the attic, and they had a piano, and he was just playing it out. He played it out on the piano in the attic.
Unbelievable. And also,
Wow.
was it Let It Be?
That's where he got the lyric. Yeah, Mother Mary comes to me. Yeah, his
That was his mom, right? He
mom
was
came to him in a
his
dream.
mom
Yeah,
came to him, yeah, and like said, let it be," and he woke up with that song. He's like a musical antenna. He just things just filtered through, especially during that period where he was surrounded by the perfect storm. It was like he couldn't do any wrong. At that point. Still going. How old is he?
70.
Yeah, he's like 75 or something now, right? Or so maybe
Yeah,
a little
something like
older.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, he's still touring, man.
Yeah.
Guys are monsters, man. He's a vegan for like 35 years or something, 40 years. So that kind of says a lot. But then again, Keith Richards is still going. And
Explain that one.
yeah,
Keith Richards' first gig was during the Stone Age.
yeah. He eats live bats. It was when Mick Jagger had that heart situation. Remember those funny memes of Keith
Yeah.
sitting out the window with his beer and all, saying, "I've been telling Mick he's got to take care of himself." Being hilarious. So
Willie Nelson said, "I've been talking with Keith Richards about communicating to the kids about the world they're going to leave us in 100 years."
oh man. So songwriting is obviously one of those things that has a lot of different it's also an emotional thing, right? Because you're putting down something that really does mean something to you. And maybe it's not even that important. Sometimes it could be important, sometimes it's just like I don't want to talk to Rachel, which is not important at all, but
Sometimes I was putting words together and I didn't know what they meant, but it sounded nice.
right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, Paul Simon once said, because they asked him about why he put this word, and then he said because they rhymed. And I was like one of the greatest songs. I think it was "Bridge Over Troubled Water." I think he was like, you know, because the words rhymed, so he put them in there, and I'm thinking to myself, "Good Lord!" All right. So does anyone have any questions or anything about songwriting or anything that they want to interject or um, kind of just spill out into the world for the YouTube audience?
So I have uh, I have one related to Tommy
All right.
because Tommy, as you said, is a very rock and roll centric guy. So as we all are, we're in love with the 1-4-5 progression, but you know it does wear itself out sometimes.
Mhm.
so so I don't know from your experiences, what is the best way to, I guess, detach oneself from the 1-4-5 progression and all of its familiarity and comfort?
You're asking Tommy that, or
No, that was a question based on my experiences with Tommy. Tommy would come to me with songs in 1-4-5, and I'd say, "Dude, come on, another one."
right? Well, I think you do have to, and I was not a good. I think George could tell you this. I was not the best supporter of the things that I didn't understand. You know what I mean? It was my own, you know, stupidity for not having enough awareness in my body to like listen to things and to take things more, to be more understanding of stuff. So I always kind of like just had my songs, and then if somebody else brought their songs, I would play it, but I wouldn't necessarily understand it, and I might have even invalidated at some point, regrettably. Um, the songwriting process that was taking place. Like when I there was a song called Two Windows, and in the beginning of Two Windows, there's this little harmonics that I hit. I just hit like these little tiny little harmonics. There's like five little harmonics, and it just keeps going. And what I was telling Holland at the time was like, I want you to just whisper the words of the chorus in the beginning, or no, the whisper the verse, the first verse, but just whisper it. So it's just like these, just whisper it as I do that little harmonic. And he was like, "Dude, that freaking makes no sense. Doesn't make any sense. I don't even know what you're talking about." And I was like, "Just do it." So we went back and forth because we were roommates, and so we went back and forth like just screaming at each other for a while. Finally, in the studio when we were, I think at maybe George's or one of the studios, we tried it, and then he loved it, and then it's on the record, and every time we were doing the show, he would be like waiting for me to do the harmonic thing. But it came from a place of just pushing for your idea. So what I would tell is like, if Tommy is passionate about what he wants, like if he wants to write those progression songs, then that's what he should bring you, you know. And then you guys have to say, let's bring in two of those, three of these, four. It takes, it's going to take a lot of different songs. Everyone should be able to bring a song in and say, I want this song. And it may not be everyone's favorite song, because there's songs that Holland has that I used to kind of hate playing, you know.
Yeah.
And, and there was a couple of songs that he actually, he never told me, maybe he's hiding it, but he never told me he hated any of my songs, but there has to be something that he just did not like playing all the time. But you do it because this is what the band experience is about. It's about contributing, and but also being able to contribute, and also being able to help someone else's contribution. And that's really what the band is. I think if we had that understanding, I mean, it's always the same thing, right? If I knew back then what I know now, well, damn it,
Hindsight
how's
is
it been?
2020.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be a different. I don't know how different it would be, but anyway, it would be different because you would have a little bit more understanding. George, do you have any insight on that?
No, I completely agree. And one of the things that, over time for us, and I remember that our songwriting in general, song arranging just got so much better as time went on,
Yeah.
that, because we went through a point where we were playing the same songs over and over and over and over. After a while, it was driving us all nuts. But we were eager for that new material. And then when we really started to get that new material out, it was like, oh my God, this is getting so much better. There's so much more maturity, and it's interesting that you say that, because there were some things that, and I remember we had this conversation, John, about even my drum parts. At one point, you had told me, you said that you had, and rightly so, you had told me that my drum parts at some times were a little too simplistic. They were, and when I had, at that time, I didn't really take it well, because to me, and it was more in my head, but to me, I was looking at it well, because you guys are writing a certain, right? I was saying you guys are writing a certain way, and I'm just playing to the way you guys are writing. Right. But then when I kind of looked back at it, I said, you know what, I can actually, do different things based off of what they're doing. And I was a little closed off at that point, so I had to kind of open up a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I think towards the end, later on, as we matured, those songs really, really got good.
They did, yeah. And I think if you listen to, unfortunately, it's actually, I think it was yesterday, was the anniversary of our dear friend David, who passed away in 2007. Tragically, and it kind of ended our band at that point. Damn you, Dave. He would laugh at that. Dave was a great guy, super, just a super nice guy. Like, he was just a really nice guy, right?
He was awesome.
He was just an awesome guy. And but one of the things that we would talk about, writing wise, was that, if you listen to our guitar parts, they were very, very different. We were playing, sometimes it was like I can't remember what song it was, but there was one particular song that we played where we were doing we're soloing, but we're both soloing on these different, between each other's notes. It was like, it's live. We have one recording where it's live, and it came out really, really, really nice. And as far as like the one of the last songs I think that we did, I think it was called Deviltry, I think it was called.
Right. Yeah.
Remember that? What a great song.
Great song.
Right?
Great song.
It had such great arrangements. We were really developing that at that point. We didn't really get to finish it, unfortunately, but it just had some really great bones to it, and just a great opportunity. So to really everybody showcase, because your drumming in that was like phenomenal, and the guitar parts were just, everything was just tight. And we have a live recording of that too, I think, from somewhere, because we tried it out on stage once as a trial. But it came out really, really nice, and I'm glad I have at least one of that, and I'm putting it on. I'm doing a little thing with the for the band and stuff now, where I'm putting all the material like in one place, so we can have like a website that kind of gives tribute to Dave and to the band and to what we did and stuff. So I'm putting that together now, and but yeah, George is right. As you get better, you guys have to be in the room together. Obviously, this has to blow over, but when you guys are in the room together, you have to listen to each other. Yeah.
At least for
Right, exactly. You guys have to listen to each other, really keep, I know we were the biggest jokers around, but except when it came to like really wanting to get the thing done, and then we got excited and we all got quiet. You remember those days where we'd be quiet for an hour and a half, just working on this one part, and we go back and we work on it again, and we work on it again, and we just get, and that's the part of being in a band that's probably the most exciting and the most gratifying, when you come to the end and you're like, yeah, and then right there we write it out, we just, and then George, you count it off, and we can live, we'll stop it, and then for the recording we'll just write it out, and it was just a really exciting time. So that's what you guys have to really focus on, because I hear what you're saying, Sean, but I think Tommy is going to bring Tommy to the table, and then I think within all you guys, you're going to bring yourselves to the table, and then everybody will adjust to make that band sound like a unit. Because the worst thing you can do is like everybody keeps their own thing, and then you have this mess. And we've seen enough bands where you walk in there and you're like, why is the guitar player the loudest person on the stage?
Right.
Um,
Right.
and
Break
and
time in
and
2018.
yeah.
but before the rest of the guys joined in.
Ah, okay. Yeah, exactly. So that part of it is really important for you guys to consider.
And if I could just add one other little thing, and I think it's so important in band structure, and John and I, you've talked, we've talked about this for so long, is to also improve as artists by yourself,
Oh yeah.
individually, because you're going to bring so much to the table when you guys get together, and you're going to see that as the time goes by.
Yeah.
You're going to see the progression in each one of you, and it's just going to make the whole unit that much better.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Shots.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I know these guys do it. They do their Instagrams. They're always
Yep.
posting. Joey's always doing stuff. Tommy, all you guys are always posting stuff, and you guys always playing. So that's definitely an important thing. A
Go
quick
check
thing, like
out
Joy. Well, yeah,
Tommy's riff covers, Tommy the Music Man on Instagram and Facebook.
Yep.
Go check out Joey's drum covers at Hungry Drummer Joey on YouTube. He's also on Instagram. You can find all of our Instagrams and Facebooks from the BreakTime page on Facebook and Instagram. We have Snapchat and www.breaktimelivenj.com.
Nice.
BreakTime LLC.
Nice. Hey, Sean, when you get a chance, can you email me all that? I'll put it into this episode, so it'll be in the description.
I actually have
and
another
George,
question too.
George, you can also email me some stuff.
So, what? This is for either John or George, or both. What was your favorite or most profound songwriting moment in your time playing in a band? Like favorite song, or just like favorite thing that you contributed to a song?
I really, George, you want to go first?
Well,
Unprepared.
I think, yeah. I mean, if I would have just off the top of my head, I would say, if I had to pick, let's say a song that was put together that I think we all put amazing things in, was like a song called The War Song. And the reason why I say that is because the song there was a mood in the song. It painted a picture. And it painted a picture of war, but it was like a very militaristic type of song. But what we all put into it, including what I put into it, as far as like I put in, this marching style rhythm to it. And it's just, to me, it's a beautiful song, just not only lyric wise, but also just rhythmically and just the way it's all put together. Yeah. And to this day, I listen to it and I say it's one of the most fun things that I've played on with you guys. Yeah. It's just off the top of my head, but.
Yeah, I have to say the same thing. That was actually a fun song to play live too, because it was so free, as because the chords were not complicated, but it just had a lot of that emotion in it.
Yes.
So you can do it. And it was also in the key of E, which is like a very easy key to solo in. And it's friendly. It's a nice key, and it wasn't like a blues. It wasn't a blues. It was just a great. That was a great song. For me, I really liked my be self-indulgent, my solo in Other Day. I really liked that solo because that solo was it was always the same, but there was this freedom that I had, where I had this solo that I knew was like almost like a song, like a part of a song, because it was always the same solo over and over again. It was a good long. I mean, I think it was 16 bars solo or something to end out the song, right? But right before that, when we were playing live, I was able to just go and just play whatever I wanted to play, and everybody's like, "What is he doing?" Because they needed to wait. I knew they needed to wait for that thing, because that's what takes us out. And then I would go into the final solo. So I really loved that element of it. But I mean, the War Song was a really great song to play on. Thinking was a song that I wrote that I really like. That was probably like the nicest, sweetest song that I've ever written as a ballad. I mean, it was a really I wrote it like in a really dark time in my life too, and so it kind of has significance of that period of my life and stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of memories, especially when you know you're not just in a band, you're also living your life. You know what I mean? There's other things happening and stuff, and the challenges of being in a group. So you're experiencing so much emotion during that time. Like I look at you four guys, and I see stability. You know what I mean? Like I really do see stability, which is really one of the hardest things to really get in a band. Like we had love in the room. I mean, we had respect in the room. We had the jokes. We had everything. But stability sometimes was a little bit shaky, because there were
Right.
sometimes commitment wasn't as 100%, and you'd have to have these conversations. George and I have, my God, we've been through this, through the ringer when it comes to not just our old band, but other bands and other musicians that we've played with. It's just been like just challenging, because we always felt that, like, don't they want to play?
Right.
Don't you like always want to play? We didn't understand that. Like,
You want to
George
play,
and
you
I-
got to work for it, man.
yeah, you really do.
Yeah.
I mean, speaking of that, George and I once we went to George, you remember this? We were playing with, I don't remember who they were. I know your uncle Dave was there, and he was playing keyboards.
Right.
And we went away for like 6 months, and George and I had just started. Like, really, we didn't know how to play. I mean, we didn't know how to play together. I knew a couple of, I knew how to play a little bit, and he didn't even have drums. George went off, got some drums. I went off, and like 6 months later, we came back to the same room with all those musicians, and George and I blew
Blew
the
them
roof
away.
off the place, right? We just blew them away.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
we-
They were in
we-
shock. They couldn't believe
They
the
were-
level that we had reached in such a short time.
in 6 months, and the thing is that we were looking at each other like, what's going on? How the hell are we
But
doing this?
I had never understood the concept at that time of not wanting to improve.
Right.
And we,
Like
John
every
and I,
day.
exactly. And John and I have played with people, and many musicians who would play. They would play in the studio, they play live, and then they'd go off and they wouldn't pick up a guitar ever until they played. They wouldn't
be really
pick up whatever.
rusty.
Exactly, they'd be really right. And to me, I ate, slept, and drank it. To me, I had to get better, because that was my part of it. My part of it was to get as good as I can for the whole, because I wanted to be, I wanted to contribute as best I can. And I just didn't understand that concept, that people wouldn't want to do that.
Yes, that's really, I mean, that's what I was saying about you guys. I feel like you guys have stability where you guys are interested, because I see you guys posting stuff and playing, and
Right.
and if you have that, and you have the friendship, but you also have the respect for each other, then I'd say you guys are on the right track. It really is going to take a lot of that.
Yeah, to
Yes.
George's point about improving, Tommy and I, speaking on what Tommy said earlier about our songwriting, some of our sessions have gone as long as like half of the day, like 12 hours.
Oh yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Nice.
Sometimes like twice, 3 times a week.
Yeah.
And then it's in my house, in my attic. It's a really nice attic. It has a studio and all that.
Yeah.
And my mom asked me, like, how does Tommy do it, man? How do you and Tommy do that? and I say, I don't know. And then I just give her this face, like, for like 5 seconds. I'm like, I don't know.
Just go.
It just happens.
Yeah. Well, George and I used to do that too. We would go to when you had the studio at Hudson. We would go there like, what, 11 o'clock in the morning. I would ride my bike. I'd get there on my bike, get off, and we'd stay. And then you drive me to the train station, or I'll ride my bike home at like 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night,
Yeah.
in the South Bronx.
Okay.
Dodging bullets. But yeah, it was, and it didn't even seem like it never
Nope.
feels like it's a long time doing it. Like, honestly, it never
It
felt
doesn't
like I
feel
was
like enough to me.
no,
12 hours.
yeah,
No.
you're right. You're right. Sometimes you're looking and you're like, oh man, I gotta go. So that's if you have that, you're on the right track. You're definitely heading into the
Yeah,
right
exactly.
place. Cool. I
Anybody
feel
else have
like
any other questions?
No,
Because
that was a good
got like
question.
one more. I'm like, you have one, Andres?
No, I'm enjoying listening.
So I actually have one. I'm like a fountain of questions right now. This is for the drummers because I don't understand much about drumming like how John doesn't understand much about it, like he professes. So for George and Joey, um, like approaching writing a song, do you guys ever approach writing a song from like a groove standpoint, just like starting from the groove and then like do you hear like certain progressions or some certain melodies from like a groove that like you came up with? Like you
Joey, I'll let you
yeah.
take that first.
All right. Yeah, man, it really, yeah, that's a good question. I'd say the first thing that starts with is the melody. Like right off the bat, we just listen to the melody. And then obviously I'd find the appropriate groove from there.
Well, my question is if there isn't a song already written, like if there's no melody, if are you creating like it,
Oh, if you're saying
are there
like
are there
creating a
songs
drum
created
part,
from the drums
like
first? Yeah,
creating,
like
from drums first, then in that case, really, it would just be like, whatever groove like the band wants, and
Mhm.
then probably just play that groove. I mean, obviously, but if the chords and stuff are already written, then that gives us, I'd say that even gives us an even better idea of how to complement those um, musical patterns and stuff. Because then that way we could add like little accents here and there, like little phrases that just complement the melody and the and the chords and just make the song feel more full, basically. Um, but yeah, I mean, starting off with a groove too is perfectly fine. But yeah, that's another way of looking at it.
Cool.
Yeah, I agree too. I mean, I always I start off at the simplest point and build from there. But if it's a situation where I mean, there have been songs that we've done that literally was more. It started off with the groove and kind of everybody kind of built around the groove because it was a cool groove and everybody just kind of started around that. I think that was more in our early days with Hudson Sound. But then when we kind of grew into when we got into Glass of No and stuff, then it was more of the melody, the melody was there. And what I would listen to the melody and I'd say, to see and I kind of test a few things to see what would go good with it. And sometimes it was just something very simple. And then sometimes I would cut the time in half. Sometimes even that, cutting the time in half would just completely make a different song, but yeah, it just depends, I guess, on the situation, but that's the way I would approach it, really.
Yeah, I think didn't we have a song called Midnight or something that it was just a groove that you just started?
Yeah, actually, yes, and you're absolutely right. I remember the Midnight was just it was a nice, almost like a funk type groove, doing some side stick on the snare, and it started out with the groove, and the song was literally built around that.
Yeah. 'Cause I remember I only had 2 chords in the whole song.
Exactly.
I was trying to figure out like what to put in. So I just put 2 chords in just to kind of start the things going. But then we took the 2 chords and we had the verse with the 2 chords, and then we had a chorus because
Right.
we did the accents right from the verse
Right.
to the chorus. We did these
Yep.
accents. It went right, and then it went
Exactly.
to the chorus, and the chorus was the same 2 chords, but because we had that little, it made it seem like it was a fresh chorus. But the whole song,
Exactly.
start to finish, was actually 2 chords. I believe. Maybe there was enough. Maybe there was more that I don't remember. But as far as I remember, I think there was just 2 chords. I did my like. I
I
like
think
my.
it was, yeah.
I like my
Yes,
solos and all.
yeah. It was a fun song. It was a fun
That
song.
was a fun song. That was also one of those free
Yes,
songs. That's in the key of B, I remember, and that was kind of like
exactly.
a cool key to playing. So yeah,
B is
John,
natural.
you had to go there.
You know, it's interesting. I remember listening to Neil Sedaka. He was actually being interviewed. If you guys know who that is, he was being interviewed about songwriting, and he said, I'll never forget this. He said that all great songs have one killer chord, and he was playing one of his songs, and he showed where that chord is and how it went right into the chorus, and I was like, wow, never thought of that. And to this day, when I listen to songs, I listen for that one chord that hits me, and I go, that's the chord, that's the one.
Yeah, I remember we talked about that before. Yeah. There's a song called I'm really bad with with our own songs, but it was on the first thing we ever recorded. It was a slower song. So soon something.
Soon she says.
Soon she says.
Yeah.
So that song had like,
Probably knows all the lyrics.
yeah, I'm sure. That song had like some of those chords in it. I really wish that we would have played that more, but what happened with that song, it was that it had a lot of jazz chords in it, and
exactly.
all the bass players that came in after the original bass player that played couldn't play it.
Right, you're right.
We could not find a bass player. It was so sad. It was like they couldn't find that groove. It was so sad.
Very true.
So, but I have that song on the back burner for something that I'd like to do with, because I think that was a really good song.
I think so. I always like that one.
Yeah. I recently listened to we're going to wrap up soon, by the way, guys. I won't keep you guys up too late. I was recently listening to our first CD, George, called 4, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
right.
Because I just found it in the basement. I was like, hey, look, I got a copy. And so I was listening to it, and man, we were like really hyper.
Oh yeah,
it was like
everything was fast.
It was like a punk rock band at that point. It's such an evolution, right? When you listen to it.
Yes, brisk
and very tight.
Brisk tempo. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, it was. And it was very tight.
Yeah, it was tight, but I always had when I got into the studio, John, I'm sure you remember this, I always had an adrenaline problem.
Yeah.
I was like, I would get into it and just run with it, man. Forget about it.
All right, guys, steady.
It was hard for Holland, because Holland's trying to sing. He's like
a
speed singer.
Yeah.
But but I was listening to that, and I thought it was an interesting evolution when you listen to it. I think our band had that, I mean, for a band that went as far as we went, and could have gone further. If you listen to the stuff we did, it really does give you a good progression of where things were like, and then like, okay, I see.
Right.
And then those last couple songs that unfortunately we didn't get to record, I think that was our sound. That was what we were going to go with for the next 40 years or 30 years. But I think that was a good thing for a young band to kind of like see that you do progress, and that first song that you write might not be good, and it might be great. You don't know, you know what I mean? But you can't put your attention on that element of it, because then you lose sight of whatever might be actually good, because now your attention units have to go towards the work, not towards what you're trying to accomplish, and
exactly.
Once you do that, I think you guys. But let me let's end off, because I think we covered a lot of great things today. Unless, John, you have another question.
Does anybody else have a question? That's my question.
John's like, what was your favorite hat that you wore on stage?
How about your favorite shirt? What was your favorite shirt?
What was your favorite string to play on this solo?
So I think we covered a lot of great things, and you guys are awesome. And George, it's always great to talk to you about the old days and stuff and what we did.
Absolutely.
Great, a lot of fun. And you guys, as you guys are progressing and journeying, George and I have always been very accessible to want to help. Even when we were playing, we always were talking to other bands and trying to help people. And it was never like, we always want to be there. So whatever you guys need, you guys can always reach out to any one of us. We'll, connect through, Facebook or whatever, and you guys can connect with George and stuff. Joey
Absolutely.
and George, I'm sure you guys will have stuff to talk about. Yes, this was a pleasure, man. So I really appreciate you guys. And we will do this again next week. We'll be here. We have another topic. George, if you want to, you're always more than welcome to be on here. I'm trying to get Holland to come in on one of these. So you could talk about the lead singer syndrome, the LSD, lead singer disease, and see how he's coping with that. By the way, he the other day he did for his birthday, which was April 7th. He did a song on Facebook. I don't know if you saw it. Did you see it?
No, I haven't seen it. No.
He did a Bruce Springsteen song with him and his guitar. He sounded fantastic.
Oh, okay. Really?
He sounded so great. Yeah, I was like, I immediately messaged him. I was like, dude, you freaking sound great. So I was really happy that he's still able to do it and stuff. That was really awesome. But I'm trying to see if I can get him on maybe next week. I'll ask him and see if he wants to jump on with all of us, and then we'll really have some fun. And then see if we can get Eddie on too. Eddie was our last bass player. I don't know what happened to Eddie. Have you spoken to Eddie?
No, I haven't spoken to him. I haven't heard from him at all.
Yeah, I know. I messaged him, but he hasn't replied back. Maybe he has a new number, but we'll see. We'll see if we get him on. All right, guys. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening. God bless you all. Thank you for doing this. And
Thank you.
If anyone wants to reach us.
Yep. Oh, yeah. You wanna
Facebook,
go?
Instagram, Snapchat at BreakTime Live NJ. No spaces, no underscores, no forward dashes, no umlauts, no accents. Just BreakTime Live NJ.
And all the information will be in the description on this YouTube video.
It will. www.breaktimelivenj.com, BreakTime Live NJ, LLC. JHS Enterprises.
The ultimate promoter. Perfect. All right, guys.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, man. Have a great night.
Take care, guys.
Thank you. Take care.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.